live agent attraction dials that we do every week. Again, if you just came in, mute yourself so we don't have background noise. And Nikita, you could let people in and make sure they're muted. But I've got a guest today, really, really special to me. I've really come to appreciate and admire Angela and Chuck Fazio and what they've really done. I believe they've forged a new path for EXP by them coming over, in my opinion. So real quick, without further ado, Angela and her husband Chuck have run the #1 independent single agent brokerage in the country, overseeing 40,000 transactions and 9 billion, not million, billion in production. It's staggering. And when they looked at EXP and rolled that in, you know, their company was worth, and I'll let you explain it, Angela, but the company was arguably worth millions of dollars, millions and millions of dollars, that they could have sold that, and they chose to align with EXP. So that really goes into why we're here today, why this gift is so important for you to embrace in and with you decide to do it. I can't English today, it's too early. February 2020, they took their 900 agent office and moved over to EXP. We're going to ask her for some of her numbers if she's willing to embellish those as we go to talk about where they are. But they are builders by nature. Again, somebody's not mute.
Well, then,
Nikita, just look on the sheet. Thank you. Appreciate it. They are builders by nature, loving to help agents grow and as professionals and create powerful organizations. No question about that. They are Amazon 5-star authors of Mastering Your Real Estate Career, Your Blueprint for Moving from Struggle to Success, and RIS Media Billionaire Club, Real Trends Top 500 Power Brokers, Swanepoel's Mega 1000, Dave Ramsey's Momentum Award, Top Agent Magazine Company of the Year, Success Magazine, Leaders, Top 125 Leaders. Again, I can go on for 20 minutes. I tried to highlight the stuff that's the most maybe important for you to know, but Angela, welcome to the call. Good morning, and I appreciate you being here very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so honored to be on. I love talking about this topic, so I appreciate your invitation. I'm so excited to hopefully share some bits of information with all of you so that you can go out there and find people who need to be blessed.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And we know that's going to happen. You are a massive influencer in the company. And again, there's 3 or 4 people in the company, and we've had amazing speakers on here, literally from Gene Frederick and Brent to you name it. We've had some really strong guests on here. I believe, in my heart, in my opinion, there's 4 or 5 people in the whole company that have forged a new future for us as a brand and as a company and as an agent-owned brokerage with an opportunity to put the agents and the brokers on the same playing field. And you and Chuck are absolutely on that short list.
Thank you.
I look at Brent Gove, I look at you guys, I look at Jay Kinder, I look at people that really brought an awareness to EXP that, you know, we couldn't have done it without you, really. And so you guys have not only risen to the leadership ranks of the company, but you're also giving back at a high level, and very honored to have you on the call today. This is my favorite call of the day by far. We get to do live dials. People get to listen to me stumble through live conversations. They get to make their live conversations. I work in my CRM so they could see what the structure looks like. Not that I'm the right way, I'm just a way, right? And so by having the speakers on, that's where we really get the flavor of opportunities and other operational procedures of how you do it. We're going to ask you some time blocking questions. You know, how do you find the time to continue forward pacing prospecting? And then if we have time, maybe a little Q&A, but my goal is to have you out of here within 30 minutes, if that's okay with you, and value your time and contribution. So enough of Randy, let's talk about you. So walk me through the decision process to take a 900 plus agent brokerage, billions in sales, and basically roll it into a company without a big, 7-figure check attached to it, with the hopes of things in the future working.
When I look back on it, it seems like, we just made the decision, but it was really 6 months of arduous prayer and not sleeping, because God had given us revelation. And so we were wondering why he was telling us to do something different, right? At hindsight, it's the easiest, it should have been the easiest decision I ever made, because what we suspected was true was even truer than we thought. And that what we suspected was if we could hyper locally change the lives of 906 agents, right? What could we do if there were no boundaries? And it actually turned out to be even truer than either of us suspected. I'm looking at my husband.
Hi, husband.
I thought it was here. So that's what we suspected. And it's true. And it gets better as it goes along, because we not only spend the time recruiting, but we spend the time developing value propositions that helps agents increase their production, get better at recruiting, whatever it is that they're looking for. So we spend not equal times, but we emphasize both. We find people who have big goals and big dreams, and then we help them get there. And when you put those two things together, that's where the explosion happens.
So beautiful. So you prayed on it.
Yes.
6 months effectively. And, thank the Lord that you decided to join our journey here. And, what does that look like for you when you look at back a couple of years ago in 2020 when you joined, which was a very, it's argumentatively a very tough time for a lot of agents, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of time for leaders to stand up and lead, which you guys did during that period of time. How did that conversation go through your brokerage? And
it was a terrible mess. I wanted to say something different. It was a terrible mess. So I thought so many would come with us because it's such a good idea. Only 300 agents came with us. So effectively, we looked like we had lost our minds. You know what I mean? So, we overnight shut down our brokerage basically. And then only 300 came. Everyone thought we made like this catastrophic fail, right? And it kind of felt that way for a little bit. It felt like that for sure. And then of course the world went crazy, which that's fine. The world's always crazy.
Right.
And it wasn't until I'll be honest with you, Kristen was our recruiter at Revelation, the best one we ever had. And she's one of my best friends. And the first like 6-7 months, we would call each other constantly. And I'd be like, Kristen, are you sure that I don't suck? Because am I any good? And she'd be like, you're great. You're amazing. And she'd call me. She goes, I don't even know if I really know how to do this. And I'm like, yes, you can. So we were very doubtful of, when the shift happened, it wasn't all roses and unicorns and sparkles. Not at all. It was tough. It was tough because so many people left, which always makes you feel a little bit insecure. You can't help it. We're human. But, we had to push through a complete change of schedule and a complete change of the flow of the way that we work and we had to unpeel old thinking. I mean, it was all going on at the same time. It was the pandemic, people had all left and we were doubtful of ourselves and we were unpeeling the old thinking, which took a long time to unpeel the old thinking until we came around and said, yeah, I'm in a groove. I understand how I'm going to work through my days and I understand the focus that I'm going to have. It wasn't just, we shut down our brokerage and well, we did explode, but we felt amazing about it right away. It was a process to be sure.
So I think there's so much, so much to learn from that statement as you have. We have other brokerage that, look at this company, whether they have 7 agents, 50 agents, 500 agents, they all have similar dynamics of challenges ahead of them, right? And expectations. Did you have any expectation that this could go like this when you first made that decision? Did you?
I hoped it would. We knew we were capable, and we knew that we had done it before at some measure. We could do it again at a massive scale. We assumed that if someone else is doing it, certainly we can, and somebody else was already doing it. That's just kind of how we think. The risk part of it is certainly a risk. But our personality and our faith in God makes the risk just a risk, a human risk, not anything to not press forward on, right? So the thing that's interesting, I don't care if we're talking to an agent or a team or a brokerage, we all have the same kinds of fears and reservations about change. Actually, not all of us. 10% of us don't really care about change. I love change. But, the rest of the world is very apprehensive when it comes to change. True. And so when we talk to people, I like to discover what their what they're going for. I like to discover what's holding them back or what they perceive in their way, what their worries and fears are. And ultimately, if not everybody fits in the category of come to EXP, but if we can match those things and if we can deliver the value they're looking for, they're going to come, right? And it's a matter for those of us who are doing the recruiting, how are we going to get over ourselves, number one? And then how are we going to put process and procedure around what we're trying to accomplish? And believe me, I'm a high D, I'm not a process and procedure girl, but there are some things that you need to put into any business for it to make sense in the long run. And recruiting is no different. And I think it's so funny when people have a block. Well, I don't think it's so funny. I don't mean to make fun, but it's interesting that agents who are successful in real estate and production are apprehensive about recruiting because it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. Just like when I first started door knocking, it freaked me out, right? So does anything new, but it's no different than prospecting for buyers and sellers. It's actually a lot easier because we all have a public database that says I'm a real estate agent.
That's right.
And once you wrap your mind around the fact that most agents out there are at brokerages that suck, like literally they offer nothing. I talked to a girl just yesterday that she's an agent in Ohio, and I was describing and then she's going to go get licensed in Florida. And so she was going through pre-licensing. I love to work with new agents. So I thought she was a new agent. Turns out she's experienced. And when I was describing some of the things that she would experience if she decides to align with us, she was like, are you kidding me? She goes, at my brokerage in Ohio, all we have is a Zoom meeting once a month, a Zoom sales meeting once a month for maybe an hour. And you've just described more value that you give in a day than my brokerage can give in a month. That's right. Exactly. And they're everywhere. They're everywhere.
I want to pause on that because I think that was such a great takeaway for everybody on the call. Agents' conversations are new for you. Just like if you started making expired calls in the future, it would be new for you, which is, gives you call reluctance. It gives you your attachment to failure is all there, and it's bringing up your stuff. It's triggering you. But real estate agent conversations are much easier than buyers and sellers and expireds and FSBOs. It's just a new mindset, right? Would you agree with that, Angela? It's really a mindset shift to come from a place of contribution. And
yeah, and the other problem is most of us, when we think of recruiting, we think of cold calling. That's how we think we have to do it. That we call random agents that we don't know who don't know us, and we're just going to cold call them, and we're going to say, what? We don't know, because we don't know them and they don't know us. And when it's really, that's the wrong approach, I think. Now, some people are awesome at cold calling EXP, but just like in real estate, some people are awesome at cold calling for buyers and sellers. They're rare, right? And most of us would rather take a blunt object and poke out our eye and cold call. So really the way that you have to approach, just like I think buyers and sellers, agents, is how do I get myself in relationship? How do I put myself in front of it? When I was running my brokerage, the last thing I wanted to do was go to some kind of like a happy hour, because I knew all there would be is agents, right? There's not going to be any buyers or sellers there. Now I'm like, all there's going to be is agents. That's amazing.
Isn't it funny how things have shifted?
Yeah. And so the way that you've got to find these people is the same way you find relationships. You go and you intentionally get in front of agents, and you pull them in by not EXP, you pull them in by maybe commonalities or value or fill in the blank. It really doesn't matter. It depends on what you enjoy. And when you pull people into your world and things that you enjoy, like I love business strategy calls. I love talking to new agents. My buckets of prospecting come from a place that I enjoy. And then I build those relationships. And if I offer enough value and they like me enough, then they say yes. It's not that complicated, actually.
You make it sound simple. It is quite simple. It's just the belief that, number one, it will work, because when you look at belief, right, we have to see it to believe it. It's really backwards. You have to believe it to see it. And that's just, I have many statements in my life that forge who I believe I am and what I'm focused on in personal growth and things. And, contrast brings clarity. That's another one I use in my coaching a lot, is when things are bad, that's contrast. Contrast will bring you clarity, whether it's moving to the Lord. Maybe it's changing your ways. Maybe it's changing your circle of friends, changing your belief system. All those things, contrast will bring that clarity into your life, right?
Yeah. Can we get really practical for a minute?
Yes, please.
Okay. So when someone says, how do I do this thing called agent attraction? And I kind of alluded to it before. I think the first step is to identify 2 or 3 or 4 ways that you enjoy meeting people, right? I'm an introvert. So I am not like my friend Kristen, who's an extrovert. She loves to go do social things, and she likes to do, content shoots and Botox and tacos and stuff like that, stuff like that I would never do, right? So I first had to identify, what do I love? I love my podcast. I love business strategy calls, new agents, and I identified 3 or 4 buckets that I'm not going to get sick of. I might have a day I don't want to do it, but I'm not going to ultimately get sick of, because it's a part of me. It's the way God wired me. I enjoy it. And I don't care if that's reading books, hiking, it's from a hobby or a business, it doesn't matter. And then once you do that, then the intention comes in. That's when you have to say, I need to be intentional about those things. So if it's working out, like I like to work out by myself, I would never make that one of my prospects, right? But if you like to work out and you're willing to bring people into that world, then you have to be really, really intentional. Like I have somebody who loves to work out, and they made a group, and it sounds horrible to me, but they made a group, and they go and they try out different gyms and different, whatever, as a group. And that's how they're building relationship in one of their prospecting methods, right? So you have to be really intentional. I love to work with new agents. They're not just going to knock on my door and say, hey, I'm a new agent, would you work with me? I had to go after the avenues of how will I intentionally, with process and procedure, go after agents getting into the business. So first, the identifying of what you think you would enjoy, and then getting really intentional on a strategy. And then you have to actually be consistent and persistent doing it, which sounds like duh, of course. But if you do it in that order, and then you do it over and over again, and it starts to work, well, then of course there's all kinds of little pieces, but don't try to get the whole elephant. Just start with those 3 things. Identify what you might enjoy. 2 things, right? Put some strategy in front of it. If you can't think of it, get in front of somebody who can help you think, and then put it into your schedule. And then over time, when those things become more natural, you'll realize, oh, I need to work on more value propositions. So you work on that. And then you'll say, gosh, I really suck at follow-up. Let's put some process into that. And you'll start to improve that process over time, but you just need to get started. And those are probably the first 3 things I would develop.
That is so on point. And even though I may have said it to some of the people on this call 57 times, it's always great when you hear it a different way from a different person, right? And so I love that. Identify 2, 3, 4 areas that you love. It could be anything, right? It could be kayaking. It could be anything that you are related to, that you have passion around. And then find your tribe, right? Find your tribe that like the same things, add value to that. Focus on the relationship first. I heard that from you, and it's a very strong position, because years ago, maybe even right before your time, EXP was still unknown, where you can call and say, hey, have you heard of EXP? No, I haven't. What is it? And it's just not possible now, right? If you lead forward pacing with EXP, they've heard it before. So you immediately get shut down, and it's all about you instead of them. And so I really like talking about what you just kind of reinforced, which is talking about building a relationship, having equity put into that relationship before you start asking for a withdrawal, if there is an ask, right? Being unattached to that allows you to not have so much feelings of resentment, rejection, all the other things that come with it.
Yeah. And I'll tell you another thing, if I'm being really honest, there's parts of EXP that I'm not good at. And what I mean by that is I love the pursuit of people, and I love to develop and refine the value that I know that they're going to receive from our group, and then whatever, and to encourage them into EXP. I don't love and bear with me for a minute, I don't love the retention part. And what I mean by that is I'm not the type of person who's going to follow up and call you every day to ask you how you're doing, or, I'm not going to build all these lifelong friendships with 8,000 people, but the thing is what's really great about EXP, which has made I believe our success exacerbated, is because of the collaboration and the power of your group and your upline, or the power of like the collaboration part, is we've been able to put together things that I'm not good at or I don't want to do can come from another source and still feel like it's coming from us. And what I mean by that is, so for example, we created a really robust training and coaching system. A lot of people do stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. But I put a team together that makes my people feel loved on and appreciated, and the things that I'm not so great at, right? And for a minute I can do it, right? And so I'm not ashamed to say that's not my strength.
Right.
I'll be on the back end helping with the value and getting the people into the system, but we've also created a system that makes up for my shortcomings or the things that I don't enjoy, and that's okay too. That you should not take the burden of the entire process on yourself as far as longevity. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but that's probably one of my favorite things about our model is people are incentivized to buy into that mentality, and therefore that makes it genuine and successful. I don't know if that made any sense.
No, makes perfect sense. And it makes perfect sense to me because I've had the levels of growth that you have to do different things, right? Your organization at 100 has a completely different need than 250 and then 500 and then 1,000. And so retention really becomes into the forefront when you start getting large organizations, and it's easier to lose touch as well. And so I think that's a great conversation, because as a lot of these agent attraction people that have 10, 12, 15, 30, 50, whatever the number is, now's the time to really put those things in place to build that tribe, that hub of togetherness and collaboration. And by the way, there's too many people trying to do it alone. There's people like you, there's people like Jay Kinder, there's Cliff Freeman, Brent Gove. There's all these other organizations that are not necessarily financially aligned, but we're aligned in all ships rise with the rising tide, right? We're aligned in the EXP movement. And that's what I think has really been the difference maker. I was a KW, I bled red, a lot of us have been through that model. And we talked about culture, we talked about all those things, not to isolate them in this, but it's different here. It's different because we truly are all aligned in the brokerage piece of it. And I just think that that's the difference maker for now and in the future as we, look at the growth of the company. So you're at the top of the pinnacle of the company. Where do you see things going in 1, 3, 5 years?
Oh my gosh, this is probably the most exciting part. We aren't even a portion of the way that we're going to be. We're barely scratching the surface. There's so many things coming down the line, technology wise, and things that are going to make EXP even more irresistible. And when I mean irresistible, like sometimes, if you can't beat them, join them. That's going to happen eventually, because we have so many things internally. We're not perfect. No company's perfect, right? But we're going in a direction and at a speed that is extraordinary. I get to hear it all the time because Chuck is, that brokerage guy, development guy. And so I get to hear the inner workings and the thoughts and the direction of the way this company's going. And it elates me. It makes me even more passionate to bring people into what we're experiencing. And I'll give you another practical piece of advice, that because we're bringing people from old into something very new. From a broken into something that's not as broken, a forward thinking. So when you bring something from traditional, like I said, I had to unpeel old thinking. Every single person, if they've been at another brokerage for any amount of time, you're bringing them with their old mentality. They can't help it, but they all have it. They all have it. So you have to have also process, conversation, procedures that help people think the way that they were thinking before. And that is a constant. That's the part when once they're here, you have to set their minds about it, give them right expectations. You have to tell them they think old when you have relationships and they won't be offended. And then you have to tell them, how do they intentionally unpeel those? And I say to people all the time, listen, if you don't dive into EXP, you're going to act here like you acted there and nothing will change for you. So you have to intentionally work on that.
That's such a great statement, Angela. I mean, that gave me goosebumps a little bit, because it's so true. how they acted there is going to be how they act here if we don't guide them. If we don't give
Absolutely.
them
They
the
can't help
tools,
it.
they can't help it. It's just they're wired that way. It's not a bad wired. It's just the old fashioned model and belief system, right? Wow, that's.
Now, I was thinking that way. I needed to do it, and I still need to do it. I still need to remind myself to dive into what EXP has and keep my mind open and stop thinking that way. And I have people around me that I intentionally say, call me out if I start talking like or acting like that old way of thinking.
Right.
Call me out, because it's a process.
I love it. So, setup question: are you going to EXPCon by any chance?
Yeah, I have a couple of sessions.
So I said that kind of laughingly because there's so many people that don't go to the events and they don't think the events are for them. And I think this is where you build belief. Events build belief. They do the heavy lifting, right? So I just wanted to get a plug in there. EXPCon next week. You'll get to see Angela and Chuck there, myself. But how many events have you missed since you joined EXP?
Not very many.
Yeah, right.
Not
It's a
very
short
many.
list. If anything, it's a short list, and it's very, very special circumstances have to exist to not to go.
Yep.
Right. I think that is the really key to our building of this ship, of this movement, is really supporting the company and getting in there and understanding what these events provide you in a belief system, because it's different for everybody. Right. The same session, I might sit shoulder to shoulder with somebody, they don't get what I got, and vice versa. So really, really important. So I don't see any specific questions, a lot of love, a lot of stuff. But what takeaways would you give people right now? That I believe, like what you just said, the EXP opportunity is greater now than it was when we started. I believe that because now the awareness is there, the credibility is there, the value is there. We're the most valued, company on the planet in the NASDAQ. All these things are there, but yet a lot of people still have that challenge with getting over rejection of maybe somebody they care about in the space or whatever. What nugget would you leave us with today to help people move past that? You've given us some practical things today that are amazing.
Well, this is for the ladies. If you want to really work on this, I have a great group every other Tuesday called Power Women. Just email me. I'll put you in there, and then you can share with the boys the recordings.
I love that. Power Women.
It's literally, if we don't think about this and work on it as often, not every day, but you have to keep putting yourself in the mindset of it. You have to be around people who are in the mindset of it. You can't have a 30-minute conversation on a Randy Byrd call and be okay. It has to be constant.
I love it. And thank you for doing that. I've had at least a half a dozen to maybe a dozen women ask what women, power girls, that kind of thing. There's some things going on, but I would love that. And did you put your email in there so they could reach you by any chance?
EXP has the easiest thing ever. Angela.Fazio@exp.com.
Oh, that's
It goes
true.
straight to my personal email.
Okay, perfect. Angela.Fazio@exprealty.com. Awesome. Thank you. I'll make sure I promote that to them as well. Angela, thank you for being here very much. We really appreciate you. Thank you for showing up as a leader in the company and being willing to contribute. We had a good call this morning, almost 50 people on it that care about their agent attraction. So thank you for being here. I value your time and I want to honor that. And thank you so much. We're going to get into the good part, the meat and potatoes, making calls.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for having me on. God bless all of you.
Thank you so much. Say hi to Chuck for me.
I will.
All right. God bless. Thank you much. Bye for now. All right, everybody. We're going to stop the recording right now. Okay. Okay. So Harris, great question. You're brand new, literally first day, like you got dropped out of an airplane into EXP, field, and now you're excited, right? So
yes.
There's two parts of this journey. We're on an agent attraction call. So we're having agent attraction emphasis. But I think there's also an equal importance on the front end of you establishing your business, whatever that business may be, right? So forward facing wise, what's your brand? What's your logo? What are you, you've got some things to put into place, but that could be done very quickly. But I think it's worth mentioning, right? Because people are going to look for you. So when you Google you, what do you look like, right? So I want to make sure that we have Facebook pages, we have personal Facebook, but we have forward-facing things that are Googleable, right? So you have a presence if they go to look for you. And then the good thing is, as we shift into now, what about EXP? There's two sides of that. You have your edification of your partners, right? edify your partners in this bio of you, because if it's just you, it's not as valuable as all your partners potentially, right? So without knowing anything, find your upline, your senior partners, as we like to call them, and start figuring out who they are, get a small bio from each of them and represent them on your site. So here are my business partners. Brent Gove, #1 agent in the world for, Remax, #1 Keller Williams in the nation. And then here's my next business partner. Here's my next business partner. You could also bring in the company now at the next level, right? So fastest growing real estate company in the history of real estate, first cloud-based brokerage, first company to hit $1 billion in cloud-based brokerage. All these things that are the wins, right? We purchased Success Magazine, a 125-year-old publication here a year ago, launched Success Coaching. All these things are going to be a value proposition for you over you going, I'm Harris, I'm a cool guy. Can we talk about what I'm doing here at EXP, right? So when you start if you're asking me how to start the initial conversations within agent attraction, if that's something you want to do, it's not for everybody, but you're on this call, so I imagine it is, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Just like Angela said, you have to start with the relationship in the front. If you start with EXP, that's all about you. Let's face it. It worked once upon a time. It really did, because there was, in the beginning, nobody knew about it. So it'd be like me going, hey, have you heard of Flamboy? Have you heard of that yet? No, I haven't. Well, I'd love to talk to you about it. It's a way to make your business faster, stronger. And you're like, okay, well, what is it, right? You've never heard of the word.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, there's a little bit of curiosity to that. But if you've been called 50 times about Flamboy and you've never seen it, your reaction is going to be different when you get that phone call, right? So just internalize that for a minute. So with that being said, there's value potentially in starting the conversation with, hey, I'm with EXP. I'm sure you've heard about it, but that's not what this call's about, right? Kind of setting the tone immediately that that's not your intention. I don't have an agenda, but I'd love to talk to you for a few minutes. I only have 2 minutes now, but can we set up a time, Harris, in the next week, 2 weeks, that we can connect and collaborate, referrals, business, partners, who knows? Right? So what you're doing is you're identifying people that want something bigger. And you're identifying the people that are closed-minded and don't want something bigger equally. Right? So you could screw it up with somebody that is open-minded and thinking bigger, but you can't overcome somebody that is not. Let that sit with you for a minute. It's not about convincing the dead. It's about opening an opportunity call to somebody that's open, right? And
I think that was done to me as well. I'm an open-minded individual. I love to explore, obviously take risks, but I think this company, I've been with only one company, so it's hard for me to say, and God forbid, judge other companies. But just the platforms you guys have and how it's all built, the world and etc. I think that's going to be a game changer. 5 to 10 years, most of these brick and mortar companies are going to be behind the 8 ball or behind the curve when, EXP is going to be significantly ahead of time.
I love it. And Harris, can I have your permission to ask you some questions about your journey as it may help everybody?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when's the first time you heard about EXP on the planet? You've been in EXP 1 day. When's the first time you heard about EXP in your life?
Probably about a year ago. I saw some signs, and then a couple of my colleagues started prospecting me due to the large, followers that I have, and
right.
Facebook friends, etc. Yeah.
Okay, so you were a person of influence in some circles, but you only heard about it a year ago.
Yes.
The very first time, if you could think about it, the very first time they talked to you about EXP, you liked your brokerage you were at, right?
Yeah.
Was it appealing to hear about another brokerage at that level?
No, I just was not interested in talking to them. I said, let's keep the line of communication open. I've got
because you're open-minded.
And that's what happened. I don't think these people believed me that was going to come around. I said, I just got a couple of things I need to put in place, and we'll re-engage. And we kind of set the times, like those follow-ups. Put it on the calendar, and we had discussions every either month and a half or 3 months, and kind of talked about their journey and where I'm going, etc. And, here I am today.
I love that. So I'm going to walk you back a little more. So in the very beginning, you weren't interested, but they stayed in touch with you gently, right? Every month
Absolutely.
and a half is gently to me, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. So, and did they just shout from the rooftops about EXP, or did they keep sharing what they were doing and how it may apply to you?
Well, I work in sales. I sell diesel and gasoline. I make probably 30, 40, 50 prospecting calls per day.
Wow.
Just about. So therefore, I can usually sense when people
I was going to say even more important, because you could sense BS.
Exactly. So to me, I don't try to sell me. Let's just become friends. Let me look at the value, what you guys are doing. Let's partner up and let's see, what we can do essentially. And that's exactly why I'm here today, because I sort of believe I set the rules at the beginning, how we're going to play this game. And I think that's what brought me here.
I love that. I'm glad you're in the company. You seem like you're a good guy that's got the right idea of what the potential of this company is. Obviously, you made a good decision, Harris. I'm going to compliment you on that.
Thank you.
I really appreciate your openness, and I see a couple things. Harris will rock it. Yes.
Thank you all.
People are getting value from that. Is there anything I can help you with specifically today? I want to pay you back for your contribution. Anything I can help you with today?
No, I certainly do appreciate it. Alma, one of my friends here at the EXP, has shared the Zoom link, and she said that I'll get kick out of this, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Right before this call, I was on another call over the world regarding force majeure and what happened in the state of Florida with Ian and stuff. So I've already invested a couple hours right at the beginning to see, where is this going to take me? And, I just want people of your caliber to invest in us so that we can promote the EXP and essentially promote us as well.
And I apologize for not knowing you before today's call. You're new in the company, but we'll be touching, because if you're in Alma's organization, you're in mine. So that's exciting. And that means I'm one of those senior partners that you get to edify and use to your value. And if you've got your wagons hooked to Alma, you're in for a ride, because she's full of energy. Let's put it that way.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
She's doing it. She's making great things happen. Thank you for being here, buddy. I appreciate you, man.
Sure.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for giving me time.
100%. So while we're on this subject, anybody have any questions, anything that I could do to help you with the language and conversations or objections you're having? And then if not, I will start making some live calls. Blank stares. Crickets. Sage, what's up, Sage? Good to see you, man.
I'll say good morning. I've got a worker here doing some demo on the family property. We're about to getting after some new developments, and
Nice.
And I've been scrambling looking for my Live Lucky hat and my blue pullover so I could match you, but alas, could not find it.
You can't come on camera unless you look just like me, buddy.
There we go. Yeah, no, not quite, not yet. But yeah, no, I just want to say it sounds good and getting after it. I love what the gentleman just on had to say, and man, it really resonated with me. That's awesome. Exactly what you and I did, and that's why I'm here. So
I appreciate that. Sage is somebody that we stayed in relationship for a couple of years, right, Sage?
I think I was a little easier than that. I think I only took about
a year,
11 months, something like that. Okay,
that makes sense. Time flies. You're a good dude, but I really enjoyed Sage, and we had some commonalities in flipping, and the way he loves his wife Polly and the way he talks about her, it just all resonated with me. So we were friends. Wasn't too much, respected where he was at in his position in the coast of Oregon, and then one communication is a difference, right? There was an openness that came available. Or maybe Sage, can you tell us maybe what was the one thing? Was it something you found that was available? Was it that felt different? Was it something happened in the old without saying anything bad? It's really valuable for people to understand how that happens along the path.
I'll tell you, and forgive me, I didn't catch the name of the gentleman who's just speaking.
It's Harris.
Harris, yeah. A lot of what he said resonated with me. I have a background in my degrees in global economics and hustling. I don't think I barely have ever worked for anyone else in my life other than when I was a journeyman electrician, learning about large scale commercial electrical work. Other than that, I've always been on the hustle. And so when you called, I was open to just that. I know BS. I mean, I come from a large Irish Catholic family, and we, I could smell it before it gets there. And so,
Yeah.
And I didn't smell it with you, and I could hear that there was an honest conversation to be had about value. And so, like Harris said, we would have a bit of a conversation, and then I'd say, hey, I've got to get to my next thing. Let's, please circle back. This is interesting. I'd like to continue this conversation. And you didn't resist or try to make a last minute plug for but
oh, by the way, I have to go through the XP stock this week.
Yeah, it was just that, and so, but and of course, I was having a great year, and I paid $100,000 in commission splits, and life has a way of leading someone through the bumpers towards.
That's right. And to be transparent, Sage, I remember you telling me that, and in our model, we talk about write down the things that are important to them, write down the things that may be triggers, right? That was a trigger for you. And I remember poking you in the ribs on that, man. You're still paying $100,000 to your broker, poke, right? Yes. And so you could do that in a respectful way, just like with your buddies. If your buddies were in a toxic relationship, and every time you run into them, they're talking about the toxicity of the relationship, you're like, hey, how's that working for you, man? It's all good. So you probably love being in that relationship, right? It's similar. When you love somebody, you can still bring it to their awareness without, shaming them or making them feel lower.
Exactly.
I love you jumping on. That was a pleasant surprise. Sage is really, really new in the company. Like I said, I feel like we're friends because I've known him for a year, and I'm honored that he's here. Him and his wife are rock stars. And I think that's, unsolicited, Sage, that you came on and said that, but it couldn't be better for the call, because it just reinforces what we've been talking about. If a year ago, let's be true, Sage, and like you said, you could smell it a mile away, right? If I would have been out of integrity with my ask, like asking one thing but meaning another, you would have spotted it.
I would have said Randy Turd.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I would have made it about me and not you, right, that could have pushed that relationship apart. We've never met in person, right? So you're leaning on a phone call or a text message or a video.
Yes. By the way, I'm going to be up in your area sometime in the next few days. I'd like to chat. Maybe we can get together and have that face we never had. So
please, yeah. He's a bald-looking, good-looking dude too, man. So he doesn't have his video on, but he looks like Mr. Clean that went into the gym.
Well, hey, I finally look good too, and now my old 48-year-old butt can't figure out how to turn the camera on. So
well, thanks for fixing your hair for us this morning. We appreciate you, brother. Yeah, Sage, let me know. We're leaving Tuesday morning to Vegas for EXPCon.
Understood. We'll talk to you in a bit.
I'll be here all weekend. Let me know. I'd love to see you, man. Thank you. All right. So another great nugget for you guys today, because it's one thing to hear me say it, but it's one here to say the reaction of what it felt like for two people over the last year. That's really, really valuable. Any other questions, anything before I want to get into my calls as well. Any other questions? Any takeaways? All right, you could chat them up if you have a question or a takeaway or an objection you're getting, so I can help you with it. I know Andrea Beam and I did some objection handling the other day that really, really helped her. And it's all just a little different version of what you hear and how you take it in, right? And we've got some rock stars on here like Dan Hilsman. He's got 1,000 agents in his organization. He's still here learning. We got Harris that just today's his first day, and he's not even got his tennis shoes wet with EXP stuff yet. And he's here, right? So I take this seriously. I love it. I'm honored. And with that, I'm going to jump in and make some phone calls. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to stop the recording from this piece. So